Welcome to my channel. I'm so glad you're here. You know, if there's one thing I've learned after more than 70 years of living, it's that every one of us carries a story worth telling. Not just for ourselves, but for those who come after us. We've lived through decades of change, wars and peace, love and heartbreak, triumphs and setbacks. And all those moments woven together form a tapestry that deserves to be seen. Today, I want to share with you how to tell your story and share your wisdom, because someone out there needs to hear it, and maybe that someone is closer than you think. Let me take you back to a small town in Illinois, 1959. I was 13, sitting at the kitchen table with my grandfather. He had a voice like gravel and a heart like gold. That night, he told me a story about how he survived the Great Depression. I remember the way his eyes looked as he talked about selling apples on the corner and the shame he felt not being able to provide more. But then he said something that stayed with me my whole life. "Boy," he said, "hard times don't last, but strong folks do." That story wasn't just entertainment, it was a seed. It taught me resilience before I even knew what that word meant. And that, my friends, is the power of sharing our stories. You might think, but who would want to hear about my life? Let me stop you right there. There's no such thing as an unimportant story. The ordinary moments, the Sunday dinners, the childhood mischief, the lessons learned the hard way, those are the very stories that connect us as human beings. You don't need to be famous or have climbed Mount Everest to be worthy of remembrance. Your truth, told honestly, is more than enough. When I retired from my job as a high school principal, I started writing letters to my grandchildren. At first, they were short, just memories of when their parents were kids, or stories about my own youth. But over time, those letters became little windows into my soul. I wrote about falling in love with their grandmother during a 4th of July picnic. I wrote about the time I got fired from my first job and how I bounced back. I told them about the things I regret, the choices I'm proud of, and even the mistakes I hope they never repeat. I can't tell you how many of them have written back saying, "Grandpa, I didn't know that about you. Thank you." One even told me it helped her feel less alone during a tough breakup. That's the beauty of wisdom. It multiplies when it's shared. So how do you begin? Start small. Choose a moment in your life that taught you something. Maybe it was a childhood event, a career change, or even a moment of failure. Write it down or speak it into a voice recorder. Don't worry about being polished. Speak from the heart and let your voice be real. You can even organize your stories around themes like love, loss, faith, or resilience. One of the most powerful things I ever did was record myself telling stories to pass on to my family. I didn't need fancy equipment, just my old laptop and a quiet afternoon. I'd sit there with a cup of coffee, look out the window, and just talk. Sometimes I laughed, sometimes I cried, but every story was a gift. You don't have to wait for the right time. Now is the right time. We live in a world that moves fast. People are scrolling, swiping, rushing from one thing to the next. But when we stop and tell a story, something magical happens. We slow down. We connect. We remember what it means to be human. And in this high-tech world, our old-fashioned stories may be more valuable than ever. If you want to go a step further, consider writing a memoir or even starting a blog. There are tools today that make it easier than ever to share your voice with the world. You can record audio, publish short essays, or just send regular emails to your loved ones. The point isn't the platform, it's the message. I've met many folks my age who say they feel invisible, like the world has moved on without them. But let me tell you something. You are not invisible. Your story is proof that you were here, that you mattered, and that you made a difference. Sharing your story is an act of courage. It's a way of saying, "I've been here. I've seen things, and I have something worth saying." As I wrap up, I want to leave you with one last thought. Imagine your great-grandchild, 30 years from now, reading or listening to your story. Imagine them finding strength in your words, comfort in your memories, and purpose in your experiences. That's the power of legacy. That's the magic of wisdom passed down. Thanks for watching. If this video stirred something in your heart, I hope you'll take a moment today to start sharing your own story. Whether it's a few words jotted in a notebook or a long conversation over coffee, just begin. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, or need a little help finding your voice, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, keep living, keep remembering, and most of all, keep sharing.